Live. Hello. How is everybody doing? How's things? How's life? How's the universe? How has your week been? In fact, actually, I'm wearing the wrong glasses. These are my outdoor and semi-tinted, well, they're, what are they called? Transitions lenses. These are better, although they're a bit dusty. Hello, how is everybody doing? Hello, Ish, hello, Comrade Classified, hello, Harry, and hello, Joe. How you guys doing? How's things? How has your week been? What has everybody been up to? Andy's going mad. Hope he's okay. Oh no, that's just what happens every stream. Yeah. So I thought I would accurately reflect what goes on in these streams with the title. Hello Simon. Hello. How has your week been? I hope everyone's doing well today. I'm okay. I have been going a bit mad actually, but what's new? Going as in current tense, not past tense? Good question. Am mad. That doesn't, not quite the same ring. Are we all going mad, Andy? Yeah. Joining gyms, ordering joggers. Not the clothing joggers. Although I do need some more of those. Wait, what do you mean ordering, like, you can order people? You can order people who jog? I'm working on my least favourite cars yet again. Have I told you how much I hate Land Rover? Oh, the Dacia, right. I thought you meant people. Nice. And yeah, Command and Classified. I think you have mentioned it maybe once or twice, perhaps, possibly. Which Land Rover is it? Is it a Defender? Is it a Disco? Is it a Range Rover? What have I been doing? I've no idea. Oh, right, yeah. This is going to be a disaster. I'm just going to pick up the piles of them. There's some more. How many can I hold in one hand? I can hold 12 in one hand. Okay. This is going to go badly. Just warning you. There's another 4. And then if I just... There we go. Here is 20. Well, actually, technically 19. The 20th is in the box down there. Open source latency tools. Gonna put them all down now, very slowly, so I don't drop them. So yeah, that's what I've been doing this week. I've also been updating the software. I put the GitHub repo live actually, so you can see all of my many pushes or commits. So yeah. I'm doing a user guide video that I think that'll be out Monday next week. So that and then I've also done what was I gonna say? I did a lot of programming on it on I think it was Monday. Because I was waiting on a graphics card. I have a 4070 Ti in finally, and because I have the 3070 Ti already, I did a bit of a comparison to see how they stack up, and the short answer is quite badly. In fact, that video will be out tomorrow, so feel free. In fact, please do check that out. but I think it was something like 25% faster. Hello, John. Goodbye, John. I hope you're all good. Um, uh, you should get a hold of Hardware Busters International and send Aris one of your SRTTs. He might send you one of his Paranetics for testing PSUs. Incredible guy. Nice. I will. I'll have to look him up. In fact, if I Hardware Busters, looks like I'm there. Nice. I will. Where is it? Go on. Have a look. I wouldn't mind being able to test power supplies. That'd be quite nice. What are your thoughts on the VRAM panic of 23? Is it overblown, or should I start trading my organs for memory ICs? As with all like tech and like specs related questions and performance related questions, it really comes down to there are the sort of objective facts, and then there are your own personal requirements. So the objective facts are, I think it's pretty hard to argue that games are using more VRAM than pretty much ever before, especially at higher resolutions, and that the graphics card manufacturers, namely Nvidia especially, is putting on significantly too little RAM or VRAM to their GPUs. The fact that the 3070 Ti has 8GB of VRAM when the RX 480 from 2016 had 8GB of VRAM, we should have moved on a little bit since then. So the objective facts say that as a general market trend, there isn't enough VRAM on GPUs, and that games are starting to actually make use of a lot more. The subjective side, what your requirements are, really depend on what games you're playing, what resolution you're playing at, and what settings you play at, because that can vary the amount of VRAM usage quite dramatically. A lot of the discussion is around, like, if you're going to max out the settings on this game at 1440p, 4K, whatever, it's going to use X amount of VRAM. But the majority of people, even if they do have that sort of super high-end card, might not necessarily choose to run at max settings for, outright performance, for VRAM utilization, or for potentially a competitive advantage in terms of like just the straight render time and latency and things like that. And obviously it depends on the game. If you're talking about the like Hogwarts game, whatever, you're probably going to want to run that on higher settings, and the fact that that eats through VRAM is more concerning than something like, I don't know, COD on the absolute max settings with ray tracing, blah 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 enabled. It eats through VRAM, and therefore that's a bad thing, but realistically no one's playing on max settings with ray tracing on in any sort of competitive environment. Although according to the most recent update, apparently no one's playing in any sort of competitive environment, but but yeah, so that's the sort of, on the subjective side, it really depends on what games you're playing and if you're actually experiencing any issues. The reason that you hear commenters like me, like Hardware Unboxed and Linus and all of the other tech reviewers and YouTubers and things talk about it is because it's a sort of worrying trend on an industry and a new GPU level, where people who are spending like the £1,000 that it costs for a 4070 Ti, at least the MSI Supreme X one that I have, is £950. If you're spending £1,000 on a GPU and you're only getting 12GB of what is essentially less than half the speed of the last generation memory as well, that's a problem that we should be talking about, even if it doesn't necessarily mean that you're, 2060 with 6 GB of VRAM, or you're 6700 XT with, what was that, 8 GB, are actually a problem right now. It's more, if you're spending £1,000 on a GPU right now, you want it to last you for more than a couple years, and in a couple years time it might actually be a genuine problem where you're going to really need to turn down the settings or even run at lower resolution to be able to play newer games, because of VRAM capacity limitations. The point is more, if you're talking about buying a card today, we should think about the future ramifications of you buying that card compared to a different one, or even in some cases an older one. And so that's why it gets talked about right now, quite prevalently right now, because I think a lot of people would agree that putting 8 GB or 12 GB or whatever, even 16 GB on the 4080 seems a bit tight. Especially when it doesn't really add that much cost to the card itself to put more on. But yeah. Cool, I can probably keep both of my livers for a couple more years. Why do you have 2 livers? If you'd said kidneys, that would have been fine. I play Elite Dangerous in VR on the Pimax 5K Plus, which has two 1440p screens. It runs on a Titan XP. I don't use max settings because I require higher frame rates so I don't get sick. I just got a 3060 Ti to replace my GTX 1080 in the shop rig I'm on now. Decent card, first RTX GPU. Nice. And yeah, on the FPS and VR front, totally feel you on that one. It is very much the more fluid the experience, the better it is. I'm very much lucky in the sense that I don't get motion sickness in VR, in driving fast cars, on planes, on boats. I am happily, for the moment, quite impervious to that feeling. I'm also, even in VR, I'm happy to be running around in games where my friend Dan is fine if he's doing sim racing. I attach my wheel to my desk here. He sits back, headset on, and drives around, and that's fine because the simulated motion is close enough to what he's in control of and driving, and that's okay, although you normally can't do it for too long. But in Pavlov, which is basically like CSGO but for VR, he really can't handle walking around while not walking himself. That disconnect, just insta throw up feeling. But yeah, happily I'm perfectly fine with that. But yeah, the more frame rate I have, I'm happy that the Valve Index does 144 Hz, makes it nice and smooth. I play Elite for 12 hours straight. Jesus Christ. I mean, fair enough, but fuck. I mean, as I've probably mentioned, I have ADHD. I can't sit still for more than about 10 seconds. And it's also why I end up doing 17 million things, like this, and this, and this. But yeah, I mean, fair enough. Hello Zig, how you doing, man? How's things? Just started with one lever, but added a second for redundancy. Have a third off-site. Nice. Good plan. 1K for a GPU is ludicrous. At what point does it become just pure greed when the performance to value cost is so critically low it's almost criminal? Well, so the funny thing, well, it's not funny, but the interesting thing is that the price is very much not dictated by the AIBs. Nvidia sets what the MSRP is, and then the AIBs then basically go, well, we can't make any money at that price, so we have to offer the sort of premium versions, and then they'll offer you know, that Supreme card. So technically speaking, the MSRP for a 4070 Ti should be about, I think it was like £800 in the UK. But the Supreme card is £150 more than that, because that's the only way that MSI can make any money from making GPUs, because Nvidia sells them the graphics core at such a high price that they really don't, as we learned from EVGA, they basically don't make any money from it except for those higher end SKUs. So it really is Nvidia's fault, and not people like MSI, Gigabyte, formerly EVGA, as to why they're so expensive. And spec'd, weirdly. Like, there's absolutely nothing someone like, I don't know, Gigabyte could do about the memory bus width being utterly minuscule on the 4070 Ti. Nvidia sells the core and memory to AIBs. I'd be surprised if they sold the memory, because it is just it'll be from, is it Micron? You know, it's not Nvidia that's manufacturing that. I mean, technically they aren't manufacturing the GPU cores either, but you know, still, they do. I mean, fair. It's just surprising to hear. Try $2,500 for the 4080 at launch. That's too much considering the 3080 was $1,129 at launch. Well, it was for pre-orders before the crypto boom. Yeah, that's absolutely insane. Do you see a future? Do you see in the future all partner builders to Nvidia not making cards because of the low margin profit? Well, the strange thing is that Nvidia is sort of in a chicken and egg situation where they really don't have the capacity nor sort of brand affinity to be the sole seller of Nvidia GPUs. They certainly do sell quite a few of the Founders cards, but I couldn't imagine them purely, you know, cutting out AIBs entirely and only selling cards in-house. So I can't imagine that being the case. I can't imagine that, well, we've already seen the AIBs, maybe they do the same thing. Nope, brain's gone blank. Welcome to the mad part of the stream, everybody. What was I saying? Profit margin. Maybe they make one model, like the cheapest, crappiest model, at whatever Nvidia says is the MSRP, but then they always offer at a higher price for the model you'd actually want to buy. It's always £50, £100 more than, you know, $50, $100, euros, probably $200 Australian, more than the sort of MSRP, and that gives them enough profit margin to make it a worthwhile investment. I do think that it very much does seem like Nvidia really doesn't value the AIBs, which again I think is a massive chicken and egg problem for them, because if they were to say, actually, we don't need the AIBs anymore, we're just gonna do it all ourselves, that is a lot of overhead costs they're going to need to take up, not only in the manufacturing but also in the distribution, in the after sales support, in the pre-sales support. There's a lot that goes into being an AIB, on top of the fact that the AIBs often redesign the PCBs to make them significantly better, and, you know, overclock them, push them harder, make the cooler designs, all that sort of stuff. And yeah. NVIDIA gets the memory from vendors, then sells them as packages with the cores to the AIBs. Fair. Again, it kind of makes sense, but also I don't like it. To be fair, Australian dollars seem to be going in the direction of rupees and lira in terms of conversion and value. And Simon says, scary, you're about right on the price difference. Don't forget about OEMs like Dell and HP that make cheap versions of NVIDIA GPUs. That is also true. If you buy a pre-built system that's from one of the larger companies like Dell or like HP or possibly even Lenovo, they go out of their way to manufacture their own versions of everything, like the motherboards, the sometimes the coolers, but sometimes they just use stock coolers, power supplies, and things like the graphics card. Definitely, they often just use the reference board and then they try and work out how they can cheap out on it, and then, you know, fit like a terrible blower style cooler. But yeah, so that's that really. Hey, do you plan on continuing the AI series video? Yes, I still very much want to. I am still without high-end graphics card. I have been trying to contact NVIDIA for a while to get one of the higher end cards with enough VRAM and horsepower to do it, but I have been unable to. And because the 4090 has been very much out for a while, the way that the samples work, they're kind of settled in place wherever they've been left, and so it's very difficult for me to get my hands on it, one from an add-in board partner or anything like that. But yeah. So in reality, it's not looking likely that the pricing issues are going to end anytime soon then, at least not for NVIDIA cards anyway. It's very much a power move at the same time in some instances. Yeah. I can't imagine that would change all that much. Maybe something along the lines of what to do for regular blokes that do not have a 4090, e.g. running Google Notebook. I did look at those. There are plenty of, like, you can rent a VPS with a GPU, or you can basically rent GPU time. The only thing with that is, one, outright cost. They can end up being quite expensive to rent GPU time for a lot of those, and especially for, you know, me doing the learning on it, it's also going to add a fair bit of cost. And at least at the moment, the way that the world works, the summer is a really big lull in advertising budgets and actually views on here on YouTube as well. So I'm basically only breaking even at the moment in terms of my like living expenses versus my like income. So I'm somewhat struggling to afford to spend potentially hundreds of pounds on a single video. So yeah, you can always get an eGPU dock. For the AI stuff, I'm a bit confused what you mean there. Patreon links below. Thank you very much, Ish. But yeah, I mean these bad boys are definitely helping out. In fact, actually, I have one open. So this is what a actual production unit looks like. It's much cleaner than the other ones that I've done because I have a proper solder mask for it. And so yeah, that's that bad boy. Also, sorry I'm shaking so much. That's just how I am. Which also makes soldering really difficult. And I went to I had a musculoskeletal clinic appointment today, doctors, and they confirmed that my back is not the right shape. Like lombardosis or something, lombardic spine. Basically, as my spine comes out of my pelvis, instead of kind of gently curving, mine's like that. Hurts quite a lot. Now that's an idea, renting a GPU for say a couple of months to see if it suits your needs instead of going out and buying one. So when I say renting a GPU, it's renting a GPU, like renting time on a GPU. So these are GPUs that sit in a data center somewhere, and then you say, hey, can I pay you some money and you run this program for me? And they're like, yeah, sure. So you run the program on their PC or server, and that's that. I have heard of that sort of like GPU rental idea. The biggest problem is it would be very difficult to run. It requires quite a lot of capital expenditure, and also like what happens when someone just keeps the GPU, especially if it's a higher end one. What happens? And then from a end user perspective, to make it worth it, the company that would be renting your GPU would have to charge a fair amount of money, but a fair amount of money is a decent portion of the GPU because it's only going to be rented, a couple of times per its lifespan. So to make your money back on that, you're going to have to charge a decent portion of the purchase price on top of fees and like your own expenses. And so it would end up being, why would you ever do that? So yeah, it's a cool idea. I just sadly don't think the economics of it works. Don't feel bad about that either. Mine's from nerve damage from breaking my neck and back in high school. Nice. Sadly, mine's just from being me. Doctors, I'm sorry to say this, Andy, but your back is actually now your front. But no, I'm very oddly shaped, as if you've ever met me or seen me standing, you'll know. Something AMD of similar spec is close to half the cost, 1700 XT compared to a 4090 and so on. That, I wouldn't put too much stock in that notion in general. AMD is definitely playing it smart in the sense that they are trying to undercut Nvidia on price to gain market share, and to some degree, especially with the 1700 XTX, mind share as well. So that's not necessarily always going to be the case, and companies are not your friends, sadly. Yeah. Kind of like GeForce Now. Yes. In the old days, you rent your TV and VHS video player, insurance paid on top. I think we might have spoken about that on the stream before. Do you have a brace to wear to help with your posture and back at all? No, not yet. This was the first proper appointment I've had for my back. But yeah, I have a treatment plan which consists of something insane like 10 or 15 different like strenuous exercises that I meant to do, like repeat 8 times every day, repeat 12 times every day, hold for 10 seconds and then relax, and then do it again, and repeat every day. Repeat 12 times for 3 sets every other day. Repeat for 12 times 3 sets every other day. Repeat 12 times 3 sets every other day. I'm very broken, I can't do any of that. Yeah. So when are you leaving for LTX? Probably maybe several years from now. It's a bit of a trek and I cannot afford it. When I was 21, doctor said I'd be in a wheelchair by the time I was 25. I'm 49 now and no wheelchair. I do run with a cane once in a while. I'm sure my career hasn't helped though. Nice. I do actually have a wheelchair. I don't use it very much these days because I've basically adapted to a less functional life. But yeah, and I've got my crutch cane thing, which I do use from time to time, especially because my left ankle is currently buggered. I'm 26, by the way. Being me is one of the worst disorders. It has 100% mortality rate. Truth. In other news, I quite like. I don't know that I actually had these done last week. Maybe I did. But these are the clear lenses for the LED that goes on the other side of this, and it works ridiculously well. Like the LED is tiny. Focus. It's that there, the yellow bit. That is it. But when you have it go through the that sort of clear prism, even though the prism is massive, it lights up the whole thing beautifully, and you can see it from lots of different angles, and it's great. I'm supposed to use a walking stick permanently. I don't. I think I'd crush it at my weight. I'm 20.5 kilograms down though, which is helping mobility, but my knee is always going to be messed up. Well, I mean, 20.5 kilograms is a fantastic achievement, and congratulations. I can only imagine that would help with mobility too. And yeah, if I need any of those implements, I just don't go out. That's pretty much it. Or I just deal with the pain. I probably shouldn't, like, that's probably not how I'm meant to be living, but I feel for you. I know what it's like. Just keep your chin up no matter what. You get through it. Thank you very much. I keep trying. Feel for you, Andrew. You can only walk for 5 minutes. Yeah. I hear that being born also ends with 100% mortality as well. Well, technically there are about 7 billion people currently alive that we haven't confirmed that fact on yet, but there is quite a lot of evidence to suggest that is the case. Yeah. Yeah, if we're going with the scientific method, I think there's enough data to prove that one. There's no cure for being born just yet. Shame. We'll get there one day, you know. Oh, dearie me. Let's make something you know, out of this. I was thinking about doing a video looking at like 3D printed tech and like accessories and gadgets and things that you can use for your, you know, like gaming setup. There's a couple of cool ones like mouse bungees, and I have a window of them open actually. Where is that? There it is. So this is more one from me than for what you know, the average person would need. But there's a CPU tray for Intel chips that's like a little little filing cabinet type thing for CPUs for Intel chips, and I really kind of want one because it's really handy. Keycaps, like Cherry Amex keycaps. There's some really cute ones, like Togepi, the little egg Pokemon that was in the anime. Also Bulbasaur, because of course, blank one which you can then add stuff on or emboss stuff or just print yourself some new keycaps. Xbox stand, like Xbox controller stand, I thought that was quite cool, and a laptop stand actually, which is pretty cool. A headset hanger that includes a clamping screw, which is also pretty cool. And then there was two kinds of mouse bungees. There's the sort of standard one, which is like a foot and then an arm, and your cable goes over the top, and I'm sure it will have some amount of flex designed into it. Or there's one that is basically just like a little puck that you screw into your desk. You put the cable through some of the slots and then screw a cap on top, and then that just keeps it, you know, attached to your desk. It's not going to fall off or whatever, which I also quite like. Is there anything else that you would imagine would be cool? There are a couple of like coasters and things which could be quite cool. I kind of want to design one actually. I'm not too bad with Fusion 360. Little floppy disk tray, file tray, but for my CPUs. Well, I kind of like the idea of a floppy disk coaster actually. What do you think of that? I'd love to go to LTX, but plane tickets from the UK are stupid. Yes, that's my life. I'd like to go to a lot of various events. I'd like to go back to Computex, but yeah, it's like multiple thousands of pounds. Like, round trip with all of the expenses included, it could easily be 3 to 5 grand. And like, that's not far off what I spend in rent for a year. You know, that's several months of income for me. I can't afford that. So yeah, I'd buy a coaster from the merch store. That might be a bit more difficult, although you can just stick them in an envelope. So maybe I'll think about it. Some sort of cable tidy projects are always good. High heels for keyboards give it that extra bit of elevation at the back to help with sore wrists. Nice, that's cool. Cool ideas. Had to have a weird shaped waste manifold made for the house. Did it with laser sintering. Freaking amazing even to me. That is really cool. For those that don't know, that is a kind of is it SLA? Anyway, basically you have a powder, either plastic or these days you can even have metal powder, and then you have a laser that will melt the SLS. That's the one. Thank you. Selective laser sintering. Duh. But so that will melt the plastic or metal along the sort of path, and then the print bed will lower. It will then wipe a layer or another layer of powder on top, and then it will melt that layer. Same as a like FDM printer, a standard 3D printer, where the nozzle will go around and deposit material. This melts the material in place. That gives you really nice surface finish, and especially for metals, it means that you can have metal 3D printed parts, which is fantastic. It is messier because when the print is done, you have a full cube worth of that powder, which it lifts itself up, and then you have to dust it all off, take the printed thing out, and then clean up all of the dust that's left on it and sort of half sintered around it, because obviously it's not a perfect. Thank you very much, Crazy Bear. Thank you very much indeed. But yeah, it's a really cool technology. Does require a bit more work to finish the part. Although so does resin printing, and I really like resin printing. I didn't know you could do emojis or like GIFs basically on super chats. It's a weird shape. It kind of looks like you know the song "Dumb Ways to Die." That kind of reminds me of the sort of blob creatures that are in the video for that. Looks like me when I'm exercising. Oh, no, Joe, you look much better. I'd love to have a 3D printed camera mount that I can mount my camera with a charging cable fixed in place, slots for memory cards, spare batteries, etc. that can be clamped to the desk. That would be pretty cool. Pretty complicated, but it actually it wouldn't be that difficult to model. Because like you'll have the screw that goes through it for the camera mount. So as long as you have a hole that's the right diameter, which is G1/4, like 1/4" thread or whatever, and then you just measure the camera and build around that. Make sure you don't get in the way of like the lens or whatever. You know, measure up the holes for batteries and SD cards and things. Wouldn't be that difficult. Not a universal product as such, but would be interesting. Definitely. Simon S63 has the tale of all 3D printer nerds. I have a 3D printer. It worked great for about 3 weeks, and then it suddenly stopped sticking to the base, and I couldn't figure out why. That was 2 years ago. Yes. In fact, the reason why I like resin printing so much is because it is orders of magnitude simpler. You level the base plate once, right, which is just a single Allen key because it's on a ball head, so you just loosen the 2 Allen key screws, you like press the thing until it goes down, you put a sheet of paper on it, you wiggle it around, you know, position it right, square it up right, tighten the 2 screws, and then that's it. I haven't touched the like print bed on my Elegoo Mars since I did that initial setup, and the only thing that I have had to do actually in terms of like maintenance is the way that resin 3D printers work. They have basically a vat of the resin at the bottom that the print bed lowers itself down onto, and then the screen is on the bottom. That solidifies the resin, and then it lifts itself up and then puts it back down again. Solidifies the next layer. But the bottom of that resin has a... In fact, actually, I have the... They have these release films. So basically these are like super thin sheets of, I guess, plastic, but, you know, high temperature resistance, transmits the UV light, which is one of the main things. And then the way that you mount these, in fact, it actually shows you on the back. So you have to remove the 10 screws that hold the frame in, and then remove 24 screws to release the film from the frame. And then you have to put the new frame in, and then you have to use a bit of foam. And the bit of foam, actually, I cut it out of this piece, so it's the bit that's missing. You have to use the right height and size worth of foam underneath the pad so that you get just enough slack left in it, because when you then put that frame back onto the bottom of the vat, you actually screw it in past the edges of the vat so that it fully seals, but also so that it creates enough tension. The first time that I did this, I used too much foam, and so the bottom of the vat was loose, just slightly, and so that would ruin prints. In fact, I don't know if you can see with this one, but see how it's like squished on that corner and it's like sloped down there? So there was a loose bit, and so it wouldn't release. So I have just redone it, and it now works beautifully fine. But to be fair, I manufactured all of the OSRTT original cases. These ones, all 3 pieces and then all 2 pieces once I redesigned it, with the original film. So I did a lot of printing before it needed replacing in the first place. So for the average non-production run type stuff, it's perfectly fine. Resin printers have always amazed me how they work. They're fantastic, and the great thing is that they print in a full layer at once. So with an FDM or an SLS or an SLA, basically any other type of 3D printer, they print point to point, right? So they, with an FDM, standard filament style 3D printer, you have the extruder, which has to go along. If you're printing out a cube, it has to go along, then along, then along, and then along, and then lift up a bit, and along, 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 and along. And especially if you're trying to fill stuff in, it has to go all the way across, and then all the way back, and that takes forever. But with a resin printer, the amount of time that it takes is purely determined by how many layers there are, how tall the thing is. So if you want to print, in fact, when I, those lenses, those clear lenses, I 3D printed those, and I 3D printed 50 of them, and it took the same amount of time as printing one, because it 3D prints across the entire bed at once if you're covering the whole thing. And so yeah, that's fantastic. My favourite thing about resin printers is the lovely smell they let off. Yeah, that's not so great. I have multiple of the carbon canister things, and leave the window open and all that sort of stuff. They're not necessarily fantastic. They're not without their drawbacks, for sure. You need a jar of isopropyl alcohol to clean them after they come out, and then you need to put them in a UV curing station, which in my case is just one of the gel nail polish stations, because it was way cheaper. And so yeah, that. But so yeah, that's the downsides. You need to wear gloves. You should really be wearing a mask. Those things, but the results are fantastic and it's really cool. But I wouldn't mind a good FDM printer somewhere else in the house too. I've got one of those newfangled 3D printers that will do metal. It's a powder that you load in, then it melts it into what you want. You have to leave a gap to let out excess powder. There, is it laser? Is it a laser that melts it? Or does it just ovenize the powder? Also, hello Chris, how you doing? Spent £180 on bits and bobs to refurbish my MG seats today, new foam and other fixings. Nice. Enjoy. Have fun trying to reupholster stuff. Simon also, or Simon S63, while I have no idea if it is the case, bed leveling is the main thing that really put me off about FDM printers, especially the cheap one that I had that Chris now has. So you need to level that one out. It's still in the box. Of course it is. Nice. Well, when you do end up getting around to it, feel free to let me know what it's like. Resin strength, etc. compared to standard filament. Well, the thing is that resin adheres to itself sort of perfectly. There is no there are no layer lines. There's no like layer adhesion. It is a cohesive piece of plastic. The only downside is that, especially if you cure it a bit too much, it can become brittle quite easily. So it can break, like snap bits off, especially if it's really thin. But for thicker stuff, it's perfectly fine. I generally speaking, I would argue probably stronger than FDM, especially because there are no layer lines. And you can also do actual 100% infill with FDM, because it's circular nozzles. You're always likely to have a bit of a gap inside, even with 100% infill. So, yeah. The details you can get from resin is genuinely insane too, which blows my mind even more. Yes, I mean the nice thing is that it's like my one is a 1440p phone panel, so it's quite small, which is a bit annoying, but it's 1440p at like 7 inches or something. So that the amount of precision you can get is fantastic. It is like an IPS panel or something, so it does have a bit of bleed, but yeah, it's really cool. I really like it. Which printer do you have? I have an Elegoo Mars. I think it was £200 when I bought it. Like resin printers are ridiculously cheap because all it is a UV light, a smartphone LCD, and then a single axis, because all it does is move up and down. There is no side to side. You don't need linear rails, or well, you need one, but you need a lot less. And the resin is about £25 per bottle. If you're going to do it properly, like if you're going to buy one, I would buy the Anycubic, probably one of the Anycubic printers, but also the Anycubic cleaner and curing station. It's not that expensive, and it makes the whole process a lot easier. It will auto dunk the parts in isopropyl alcohol, and then it will then you take it out and then you cure it. It's great. Yeah, Anycubic Photon Mono 2. I have no idea if this is any good. I'm just reading it out. It's £179 for one. Or a much larger one, also from Anycubic, the Mono X2 is it's a 4K one as well. Damn, 260. So, yeah, really cool. The wash station and cure machine is 100. You can just get a jar of isopropyl alcohol, as I did, that I keep in my fridge, and like £20 or £15 or whatever nail curing station that also works just fine, but gonna do it, should probably do it properly. Yeah. Yeah. What's the newest Elegoo one? Just Elegoo. Oh, Elegoo Mars 3 Pro is 230. The standard Mars 3 is 181. Not too bad. yeah. Ba, 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 ba. Speaking of solar panels, they've almost finished building a huge solar farm about 3 minutes from my house, like a good 20 acres filled with solar panels. Off to look for a long extension lead. Nice. Best of luck. I will. Hopefully it won't be in a box like my 3080, 3090 or 4080. They're all piled up and buried on the couch. Oh, nice. I would also like a wind turbine, Zig. The only problem is where I currently am, it's not really reasonable for me to install one. Because it needs to be quite high to get any benefit, and that's not really something I can do, especially if I don't own the house and I have to have electrical inspections. But yeah, at some point, at some house, I will. Might even be a DIY one if I'm stupid enough. And I'll probably make a video about it. What am I like? Simon63 says, I spent hours on it, even bought a glass bed and still had the same issues, got quite annoyed with it. I don't blame you. I really don't blame you. I also had the same frustrations with mine, so yeah. I think there's a lot of settings that you need to tweak, like with the different filaments, with like, in fact, actually the interesting thing with filament is that if you don't store it in a like anti-humidity chamber bag, whatever, if it gets too humid, if there's too much moisture in the filament, that can also start breaking it. And a lot of times just drying the filament out can relieve a lot of problems. But yeah. On the Dacia Jogger front, they told me it can do 80% of the town driving on that huge 1.2 kilowatt hour lithium battery. I'm a tad unsure about that. But hey, well, you just need to do the maths there. It's a 230 volt battery, 1.2 kilowatts means that it's what, 5 amp hours? 5 amp hours is like 5 amp hours is a phone battery. Like, sure, it's a higher voltage, but it's still basically a phone battery. And you know, if it's gonna if they like 1.2 kilowatts is not enough to even move the car, right? Like, you're gonna need about 10 kilowatts to just move it. There's no way that it can do even a mile at 5 miles an hour on battery only. That's just the maths. No worries, Crazy Bear. Enjoy, and thank you very much again, and I hope to see you next week. It can drive an electric power up to 30 miles an hour. Yeah. For about 30 seconds. Especially with that frontal area, I can't imagine that it's, you know, any less than like 20 horsepower to keep it moving at 30 miles an hour. So that's seconds at with 5 amp hours at that voltage. Yeah, read about filament taking in moisture, bought some fresh filament, was still having issues. I do not blame you for resigning that fight. It is a fight that requires an inordinate amount of time, effort, and probably money. But yeah, He said, I think I might get myself a resin printer and give my dad this one and let him go at it. He loves tinkering. Problem solved. The only thing I would mention with resin printers and picking one is the bed size is quite a limiting factor. The Elegoo Mars one that I have is only the build size is probably about that, which is fine for the sort of stuff that I print, but for example, the laptop stand that I want to print, I don't know if it's going to fit. I don't have it up here actually, but it can be a limiting factor, so I would personally probably err on the side of getting one of the larger ones if you're gonna, splash out, because then it gives you a lot more options in terms of what you're going to print, what you can print, the sort of build volume. But yeah. And also, the more build volume that you have, the more you can print at once, which is a really big thing. Being able to print not only, I don't know, if you're printing, let's say you're printing a miniature chess set, right? Hypothetically. With a larger build volume, you could print basically all of the pieces at once. And they will end up taking basically the same amount of time as if you're printing them one by one, but all you need to do is load a single file, and away you go. Pretty much all the resins that I've tried have all been mix and match. You just drain out the vat, pour whatever color you want in, and away you go. Yeah, the larger build volume means that you can also simultaneously print more stuff at the same time, and therefore it's less effort to print the stuff as well. I managed to get it to do it on the test drive for a good 5 minutes before the engine kicked in. Baffles me. There must be a bigger battery somewhere or a wizard strapped underneath. I mean, fair enough. Fair enough. As a last second thing, would you put your server in the basement or upstairs? Probably basement if I had one. Both a server and a basement. One for weight, 2 for sort of hiding it away, 3 for humidity, and 4 for, like, generally speaking, your upstairs would be your, like, living spaces, whereas, you don't go downstairs into the basement, whatever, is, for living stuff generally, unless, mom's basement, whatever. Yeah. I'm future planning. Nice. Home lab. Is today's 3D printing stuff like the older woodworking stuff used to be? Obviously more tech related. Kind of, yeah. Yeah, a little bit. Anyway, I think that will do us for our usual chat for the week. I hope you all have a fantastic week. As always, every Thursday night at 8 PM UK time, feel free to pop back. And yeah, I hope you have a good week. Stay safe. Video tomorrow, user guide for the latency tool on Monday. Yeah, I'll see you all next week. Bye, guys.